please make me co-host, and then we're good to go.
I think you have to make me, oh, wait, no, I can reclaim, wait a minute. Reclaim host, okay?
Okay,
Yep,
yeah.
and
Perfect.
then make Laura co-host. Yep, and we're good. Okay, great. All righty, I'm gonna just, I've got my, hold on. Been working, yeah, okey doke. Okay, and I'm just gonna get one other thing I've sent myself. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, good. Okey doke, and I'm just gonna turn one thing off, and then I'm ready. I'm just gonna run, get myself a cup of tea, so I'm gonna turn off everything for a minute, okay? So I will turn off my, microphone and my camera. Laura, I'll be back.
Okay. Thanks, then.
Okay,
See you in a
see you in a
minute.
minute. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to start it now, okay?
Hi, Lynn. Okie doke. Sounds good.
Okay. And as usual, I'll tell people for questions to try to put them in the Q&A section. Have a little check in the chat if you've got questions. Pop them in the Q&A yourself as I'm going along, okay? I'm going to
I
be
will.
talking, I'll tell people about Heal Your Past as well as Become a Better Healer. Become a Better Healer, you can do the URL. We don't have the URL yet for Heal Your Past. What
We've
should
got
we
the
do
waiting
about it?
list. We've got the
Have we
waiting
got
list
a
for it,
waiting
which is good.
list?
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got a page for it.
Oh, brilliant. Okie doke. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell people that that's happening and it's starting in mid-October.
That would be fantastic. I'll make sure not to wait too long in between questions, okay?
Thank you so much. All
Thanks,
righty.
Lynn. Cheers.
All right. Here we go.
Let's go.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to July's Intention Circle. And as you know, we've got a lot of things to intend about. There are a lot of things going on in the world that are unsettling all of us. So I wanted to talk about that and our response to it, as well as doing a nice little intention for Gaza, as always. So I'm really so happy that so many people are interested. We've had a huge number of people signing up to these events, and we are also broadcasting live on YouTube. So we really welcome as many people as possible coming together, and you'll find out why shortly in terms of what this means for us, for the rest of the planet, for our future. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just about what's going on now. Now, of course, I'm giving you a heads up that our target is Gaza today because, of course, it's in the top of the news with uh, the claim by the UN that an additional 6,000 trucks worth of aid are waiting to enter Gaza. You also have Israel saying that a whole bunch of trucks were collected by the UN and other agencies inside Gaza, that the food, et cetera, has been delivered, but another 800 trucks are waiting collection. So again, it's always difficult to try to discern what is the actual truth, but we see there certainly is starvation going on there, and that needs to be the focus of our intention today. And once again, I'll always remind you, we don't take sides. We look at a situation and say, we need peace. We need everybody fed. We need the hostages released. We need a ceasefire. And that's going to be the focus of our intention today. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the bigger issues of right now, because all of us are really unsettled by going on. We're all feeling that there is some sort of world war that's about to erupt, that everything is broken. Every country in the West looks like it's broken, at least most of them. And when I was thinking about what to talk about with this intention circle today, I went back and looked at a conversation that I'd had with Lee Carroll. Now, he is the author of The Indigo Children and also the channeler for Cryon, and just an unbelievably fabulous human being. So I was having a conversation with him and his wife, Monica, and we were talking about things back in 2021. We were talking about the idea of what was going on now and how things were collapsing and how there was so much corruption and how life as we know it is changing, and we're all recognizing that. We all sense that we're coming to the end of something. Now, it was really interesting speaking with Lee because Lee said back at that time that Cryon has always said there's not going to be a war. There isn't going to be an Armageddon. But he did say there would be something, and he called it the Great Shift. He said it would start around 2012, interestingly enough. He told us it would go on for a number of years and to expect difficulty, disruption, tumultuous change. He said it was going to be not a war, physical war, but a war of dark versus light. And we're seeing a lot of that now. We're seeing darkness and corruption. We're also seeing light, more and more people coming to a different kind of consciousness, understanding things have to change and looking to new ways of being, new ways of changing. So people may be terrified and frustrated, but as Lee said, Kryon says, this is right on schedule. And I think that's a comforting thing to think about, that this battle between dark and light is a battle of consciousness. It's not a battle of physical force, although there are some battles, there are some actual wars in certain parts of the planet. But overall, we're talking about the end of one idea, one way of being, and the beginning of a new one. And there's always going to be bumps in the road when we try to create something that radical, that new. So how we react to all of this, it's happening in ways we didn't expect. We didn't expect governments and the big guys in charge not to know what on earth to do about any of this. I'm seeing this over in the UK, where I live, where the folks in charge keep making things worse. They keep trying to tinker here and tinker there, and they're making it worse. They're making things more unfair. Then they're making things more unfair for one kind of group and then another kind of group. And so they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to fix the economy. They don't know how to fix our national health service. They don't know how to fix pretty much anything. So we see that the old way is going down. The world is, that way of being is going down. But as Kryon said, it's going up because light is shining in lots of ways. And when light shines, it shines on the dark places. And one of the dark places is the extraordinary corruption throughout the world. And we're starting to see that. There's starting to be a light shone on all of that. But the way we react to this, it's definitely happening. The way we react to it is completely up to us. And how we react and how we react singly, but most of all in groups, is going to affect everything. So we need to start thinking about how we need to think and send intention in different ways. We need to do nothing less than change our consciousness about all of this. So we don't have to tolerate things just as they are. One of the messages I want to make to you is how extraordinarily powerful you really are. We don't understand that. We think that we are so powerless. We're just a little person. We're not a big president or somebody who runs things. We're just one little person. But you are extraordinary and you have more power than you will ever realize. And part of the reason you don't think that is because you're living according to a false story of who you really are. That story is and has been fashioned from ideas that are more than 300 years old. They are the ideas of Isaac Newton, who discovered or believed that things are separate in the world. There are lots of little billiard balls. We're all a little billiard ball separate from each other. operating in a very well-behaved way, operating according to fixed laws in time and space. And he believed that. He believed things were separate. And that became a paradigm for living. We're all separate things in our own little box. And then that was amplified by the work of Charles Darwin, who essentially, certainly in the beginning of his career, was very influenced by population explosion. And he believed there just wasn't enough to go around. So life must proceed through struggle. Although he never actually said survival of the fittest. That was one of his cohorts who spread that word, and it became essentially a defining meme of the Darwinian view. Life must proceed through struggle. Well, that became our meme too. That became our leitmotif. But that's not who we are. We're not separate. Everything is energy, and you don't separate subatomic particles. We have the power to change things and change and live in a new way. You have powers you never thought you had. Now, I've been testing it. I've got 42 intention experiments now under my belt, and 38 of them have shown measurable, positive, mostly significant effects, not only on the targets, but on the people doing the sending themselves. And I've run tens of thousands of Power of Eight groups and seen the most remarkable healings, demonstrating that our consciousness in a small group is powerful enough to change out there, to lower violence, to heal people, to heal ourselves. So we have the power to heal. We have the consciousness to heal that gets amplified in small groups. But we can also use that power for other things. We can use that power to heal communities. We can use different powers as well to augment this. We have the ability to see beyond our senses with remote viewing, to forecast things in our lives with our ability for precognition, to send thoughts to each other through extrasensory perception. We have all of those innate capacities. Every single one of us does. But our people in authority, maybe our parents, maybe our teachers, for years when we were growing up, dissuaded us from thinking we were miraculous beings and really essentially forced us to believe that we were separate, isolated, and limited, that we did not have those powers, that they were imaginary friends, or we were just imagining things. We were making things up. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't make up intention. We have the power. Thoughts are things that affect other things. And the point is, what happens if we come together in small groups and small groups start changing small things, local things in their environment? That is how any major change happens. That is how any major change happens. It happens from the ground up. It happens from a small group of people, sometimes even an individual, thinking differently, having a different approach. And I'm going to start sharing with you in my communities and elsewhere some ideas about how to take a few things and start making a difference, creating peace in your area, doing things different, making a small, coherent, powerful community that changes the way you do things. Now, this is not anarchy. This is not attacking anything. This is coming together with people, whether they have a different political persuasion. I don't take sides. Everybody's welcome in my church is what I always say. And I don't mean church as a religious entity. I just mean it's a place where we can all meet peacefully together and connect. Democrat, Republican, rich, poor, invited. So we can do things differently. We have that power. I've been looking at the work of the actress Jennifer Lawrence. Now, she is part of an organization called represent.us.com. And it's a small group that is basically trying to unbreak America and, and particularly looking at fighting corruption right now. And she said in a recent video that if 3.3% of a population engages in sustained activism, they have the power to change an entire nation. Now, I've seen that before with just individuals. I'll give you a couple of examples. One was a friend of mine, but he became a friend of mine too. His name was Al Lowenstein, and he was a one-time congressman and an activist. He had, in his young life, in the younger years, been one of the campaign drivers and even campaign managers of Bobby Kennedy Sr.'s run for president. Now, before that, Lowenstein was disaffected with Lyndon Johnson, as were most of the youth of that time, including myself. He had done exactly the opposite of what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to wind down the war in Vietnam. He escalated it. And, he was he was responsible for a lot of American deaths and Vietnam deaths. So Lowenstein thought, this guy needs to go. Now, he was only one person. He had no money. But what he did was he went from campus to campus and started talking and created a Dump Johnson campaign. Now, Johnson never got a second term. As a result of that, of just going around to universities, he started a groundswell of activism. Now, we've seen that. I'll give you another example. Bob Geldof. Now, I just saw Live Aid at 40. So there was a 3-part series on Live Aid that the BBC did. Now, Bob Geldof was a sometime rock star, rock musician, but not one of the big guys, not a Paul McCartney or a Bono. But he got an idea. He watched something on TV about people starving in Africa, and the pictures were unbearable to watch on TV. So he said, this is wrong. Maybe we could do something about it. So Bob wasn't the biggest star in the world, but he knew a lot of people. So he started getting on the phone and talking to rock stars, big rock stars, Paul McCartney, Madonna, Sting, the whole lot of them. And he said, let's make a song together, Boy George. So they all came together and they wrote the song, Do You Know It's Christmas? And the idea was all the money would go to Africa. And he thought, maybe that'll do the trick. So they all got together, and in the movie, he says a couple of things. When we were working together, all these big stars who have big egos too, were working in total camaraderie. People were really connecting together. They knew they had a bigger goal. And it worked. They sold, when they put that single out in America and the UK and elsewhere, it sold more as a single release than any other record ever. Now, of that time. But then he said, maybe that isn't enough money. So he decided to do the Live Aid concert. And they raised, throughout the different places, something like 500 million. Now, that all went to Africa. But that also wasn't enough. He thought, one of the big problems with Africa is they have this enormous debt to the first world. What if the different countries could excuse that? So he gets this other idea 20 years after Live Aid, and he says, he starts talking to the UK government and saying, what if I got all the G8, it was the G8 at that time, Russia was part of it, to all come together and sign that they will excuse and release Africa from all of its debt? What would happen? Would that help? And this would supposedly help HIV, etc. Now, he managed to get the whole G8 to sign this. He got Tony Blair on his side. They all did this. Now, I was sitting back watching all of this and thinking, wow, one guy did all of this. Now, all he had was a great idea. He didn't have loads of money. He just had the will to do this. So I started thinking about that and change. Now, again, I don't believe in dealing with the politicians. I think it's all too corrupt, too broken, etc. I believe much more in a ground up change. So I want to talk to you and have you think about small groups coming together, connecting, and starting to make change locally. I believe that's the way it's going to happen. And I believe that's the way it's going to be peaceful. I also want to encourage you to understand that you are energy and you are creators. And you have the power to create peace and a field around you of peace, or you have the ability to create war and a war around you, and anger and dismay and hopelessness. And that would be the thoughts you are beaming out. Remember, you're beaming out 70,000 thoughts a day. They can be hopeful and peaceable and connected and loving to everyone around you, or they can be frightened, angry, holding yourself in, and being furious and pained at everything going on. And that also gets sent out to the world. So one of the things I want to keep encouraging you to do when you come to this intention circle is to know and understand and to make a vow that you will go out there and carry the peace you're about to experience by being part of this into your own life and see what happens. Okay? So, and I will be sending you more information about or discussing with you more ways that we can start creating those small communities and that small change that's going to end up creating a stampede of change. So let's do our intention now. And remember, I want you to imagine the healing happening in Gaza, people being given enough food, enough aid, enough health aid, children not starving anymore. I want you to imagine the hostages coming home, all hostages coming home. I want you to imagine a ceasefire and permanent ceasefire deal being signed by Hamas and Netanyahu and his other government people. And I want you to imagine, fast forward a few years, and imagine a peaceful, prosperous, and connected Gaza and Israel, so that all of this hatred, all of this war, all of this revenge, all of this is a thing of the permanent past. So let me share my screen with you. I have just a few slides and music too. I'm one of them for all of the people who want music. Here, wait 1 second. Let me do that again so I can, okay. So let me try sharing again. Gotta share. Okay. Now, So if you do not want music, then just turn your music down. I'm going to, let me see, I'm going to turn this down a little bit as well. Okay, good. All right, everybody. Now, let's get comfortable. I'm going to just get rid of this black blob. So our target is Israel and Gaza together, remember. So remember, our intention is that there be an immediate, complete, and permanent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, that all hostages be immediately released, that all aid trucks be allowed to enter Gaza and distribute food and aid to all Palestinians, and that there be a permanent peace in the entire region. So imagine immediate and permanent ceasefire. Imagine all hostages released. Imagine all aid trucks getting in and distributing everything needed by the Palestinians, and permanent peace. Allow yourself to have those visualizations as we hold this intention. Try this again. I think we're not going to have sound today, so let's go back to this. Okay, everybody, let's hold this intention for 10 minutes. And remember, I will read it through. I'll have you take it down to your hearts and send it out. And allow yourself to visualize all those moments of peace. Here's the intention. Let's take a deep inhale, a deep exhale. A deep inhale, a deep exhale. A deep inhale, a deep exhale. A deep inhale. And now on the exhalation, let's hold this intention. Our intention is that there be an immediate, complete, and permanent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, that all hostages be immediately released, that all aid trucks be allowed to enter Gaza and distribute food and aid to all Palestinians, and that there be a permanent peace in the entire region. Let's hold this for 10 minutes. Take it down to your hearts, send it out, see all of those images of healing, of ceasefire, of hostage release, of aid trucks, of children getting better, of permanent peace. Let's carry this on for 10 minutes. Okay, everybody, let go of the intention. Trust the process in your own time. Come back into the present moment and take a moment to just be peaceful and to stay with the feeling that you have now, hopefully of peace. And also take a moment to think about how that felt. How did you feel? Were you out of your body? What were you experiencing? How do you feel physically and mentally? And what were your visions? What were your images? Go ahead and write them in the chat. Tell everybody on the call about it. And as you're doing that, I'm happy to take some questions. I can talk about intention. I can talk about our upcoming courses. We are running now a special on Become a Better Healer for anybody who is a healer in the healing arts of any sort, anything from doctor and nurse to alternative practitioner or energy healer. It is all about training you to be more conscious of how to use your thoughts and words as your most potent healing tool. So I'll answer about that. We also have an upcoming Heal Your Past course coming up in October. I'm happy to tell you about as well. So let me answer some questions. And Laura from my team is here. And if you'd like to write any questions in the Q&A section in where you can put questions, I'm happy to have her read them out. So Laura, have we got any yet?
Hello. Hi, yeah, we've just got one in the Q&A. I'll just read that one out, one moment.
Okay.
This one's from Lala Chambers. She says, isn't natural selection the adaptation of animals, including humans, plants, and other species, by mutation to succeed in ecosystems?
Well, that's a great question. There are a lot of questions about natural selection and Darwinism. And Darwin himself came to believe that nature maintained itself through cooperation, not survival of the fittest. But the neo-Darwinists like Richard Dawkins are much more extreme, even believe that, we are at the mercy of our genes, which are essentially um, uh, survival vehicles. I think it's far too simplistic. I tend to go with the work of Simon Conway Morris, who is a paleontologist at Cambridge, and he believes in convergent solutions. The very different species, for instance, humans and octopi, both have camera eyes. We both arrived at the right solution. But what my point is about natural selection is not Darwin's views per se, but the way they were co-opted and created into life is struggle and survival of the fittest. That has been essentially the leitmotif of our times. Rugged competitive individualism is one of the things that is crushing the world right now. So that's what I take major issue with. Okay, anybody else have a question about anything relating to intention? Just pop it in the Q&A if you would, or Laura, if you see any questions in the chat. But It's easier for us in the Q&A section.
I see a question here from Sonia. She just asks how many people are on the Zoom. I've got I'm not sure if you can see that there, Lynn.
I think we have 556, and
Yeah,
then we also have loads of people on YouTube too.
that's correct. I've got another question from Dana. She says, I would love to hear about the Healing Your Past course. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we usually run this as a retreat. This year we did not because I've been too busy writing a new book, and I'll be telling you about that in the months ahead. It's a new kind of field. It's about a science that's going to change the world, and it's been hiding in plain sight. So I've been very busy with that, but we decided to run Heal Your Past online this year. So we will be kicking it off around mid-October. It is all about understanding what your past is and how to change it and how you can heal it. You don't change what happened, but you can change your response to it, your power toward it. And that includes trauma of every variety or just difficulty that is sabotaging your present and preventing you from living essentially your best and most joyful life. Now, with that course, I partner with my husband, Brian Hubbard, who is the originator of the Timelight method that he's now beginning to teach to practitioners around the world. It was used at a German clinic successfully with some of the most so-called intractable patients, and it has worked brilliantly. And essentially, in a nutshell, he and I talk about the past not as a linear progression. No quantum physicist believes that in sequential time. Time is one great big now, space is one great big here. And with Brian's work, he demonstrates that time is an energy. So that something that happened to you 40 years ago is sitting here right on your shoulder, like an unwanted guest. It's creating the you in the world, and it's responsible oftentimes for many of your decisions, often the bad ones. It's preventing you and blocking you from your ideal future and present. So I also teach retro intention methods to help you reclaim your power, because it's not the incident per se that has harmed you. It is your response to it. And when you're 5 years old and it happens to you, for instance, you have nothing, you are fairly powerless. So we help you reclaim your power. We show you a whole bunch of techniques to overcome patterns, because what happens with those early experiences is that they create patterns that you continue to manifest for the rest of your life. Like if you had some issue with an abusive husband, let's say, you will oftentimes break up with him and then go on to pick other abusers. That kind of very simplistic thing. If you believe you had experiences, maybe you were, there was never enough money in the family, one of two things can happen. You can always overspend because you've got to demonstrate to the world that you've got lots of money, or you just can't manifest it. You're always short. And we show you how to unravel that pattern, how to find out where it started and what to do about it. Again, with a load of special intention techniques that go back, reclaim your power, your view of yourself, and untether you from that past. We also show you how to forgive those transgressors, as I'll call them, and what to do about that, and how to see things from 360 degrees, and how to emerge from there. And we work with people who have had any kind of trauma, any kind of difficulty. So it doesn't all have to be trauma as in getting blown up or getting run over. Trauma can be your parents slapping you that had an unhappy effect. Trauma can be your parent unwittingly say, "You're not very good at that, are you?" And then you thinking you're not good at that, maybe it's math or whatever, for the rest of your life. Or a teacher humiliating you, making you feel like a dullard, and carrying that for the rest of your life. So we work with all of that and help you also design a happier future, but to unshackle that and to let go of that. And Brian teaches all about the adverse childhood experiences and how they can affect you, how to get over them, how to live your life in the present, and so much more. So we'll be launching that in mid-August. You can sign up now to find out more about it by signing up on our waiting list, and we'll let you know more in a few weeks. But Laura's going to put the waiting list URL in the chat to have a look.
I've
Okay,
got another question. Sorry, Lynn.
sure.
I've got another question from Jane. She says, when we get down about world events, what is the best way to shift it?
Okay, number one, do not watch the news. The news is, number one, unreliable now. Most news stations are highly biased or getting information so they have one or another political view. They also are recipients of vast amounts of money from big corporations, and that colors their view even further. Don't watch the news. Find some sources of positive news. What we don't hear, when I watch the news, I watch for one station because it ends with at least one positive story. And otherwise, I try to keep abreast of things without taking it in. So find a source of news that has positive news in there, but also create your own news. As I say, I think what we have to do is recognize, look at this in another way. Look at it as a shift, not a breakdown. So if you look at it as a shift, we're moving into something better. It wasn't so great before. We were just familiar with it. It was unfair. There was still loads of things. There was a lack of understanding about everything going on with the climate. There was vast wealth and vast poverty. There were loads of wars. There were all kinds of bad things there too. There was huge corruption. There was the rise of super corporations and ultra processed foods and some dangerous drugs and so much more. Things weren't great before, but we were used to them. So this is our opportunity. And I think the other thing is to start thinking of this as an opportunity. How can we do this differently? And I'm not talking about socialism. I'm not talking about communism. That hasn't worked thus far. But I'm talking about a real different way. And the way I think of it is it's got to come from the ground up with small communities. So the other thing to do to keep yourself buoyant in these times is to find yourself a group. As you know, my favorite antidote to all of this is getting a Power of 8 group, because you are subsumed in a group of supporters. You've got people who've got your back, who are going to be loving to you once a week, and that will hugely sustain you. Now, if you want to create that locally, that's even better. I mean, either way is great, but if you do it locally, you can also use that to affect your community. If it's online, you can work individually in your communities to spread a new way of being. So we're going to be carrying on with that. But right now, the best thing to do is fill your day with positive news, wherever it comes from. And I can see there are people writing in the chat. If you know of a good positive news source, write it in the chat for everybody else. Anybody else with a question? We have a few more minutes.
Sorry, Lynn. I've got another question here from Anna. She says, could you please tell us the difference between your Intention Essentials course and your Become a Better Healer course?
Okay, Become a Better Healer is completely different. It is Intention Essentials is for people as a foundation course in intention. Become a Better Healer is about using intention to heal patients and becoming much more conscious of what you're saying. And the reason I started this is I had a health challenge about 5 years ago, and I went to loads of different practitioners in an attempt to get better. And I started writing down what they were saying to me because it was material. They were saying terrible things to me. They were really good at what they did, but they were completely unconscious of the way they were communicating. They were saying things like, you're a shadow of your former self, or it's going to be a long and painful journey to get better. And I started thinking, how on earth do they think that is a healing message? So I started realizing that healers of all sorts oftentimes are unconscious. They're worrying about the diagnosis, they're worrying about the prognosis, they're giving a prognosis when they have no way of knowing, no one does, how somebody's going to respond to the challenge of healing. And so I started thinking they need keys to communicating better with their clients or patients. They need to use intention. They need to use their thoughts and words because there have been some studies, and one of them really struck me. It showed that the way a doctor communicated to a patient, whether it was positive and hopeful or uncertain and a bit negative, made a 61% difference. 61% difference in patient outcome. So that tends to mean that the energy, the thoughts and words of that healer is their best medicine, their best medicine. So I teach 13 keys to healing intention. They are different from the 13 keys I teach for the master class. There's one or two overlaps, but most of them are very different. So it is all about professionals. It's a professional course. And it's recorded, except I have one live interactive mentoring session with them, as I did with Intention Essentials, but it's very different. And also for Intention Essential people, the follow-on course from that, aside from Heal Your Past, is the master class, the year-long class that I run in February of next year. Okay, anything else?
I've got a question from Eric here. He says, what is the best and easiest way to initially form a small community of very close friends?
I think the easiest way, first of all, it's if you want to make a small community and you want it to be an intentional community, I would just recommend, if they're open to these ideas, to have them read The Power of Eight. Then they can see a little bit more about what I'm talking about. Another good book in this area is my book, The Bond, about living a new way. That one I wrote and published in 2011, just before what Prime was talking about, because I could see we were in the beginning of the end of something. The best way is to say, hey, are you happy with the way things are going? Let's start being together, intending together, and start focusing on creating some new ways of being. And I'll be sharing with you, Eric, over the coming, if you're part of my community, I'll be sharing more tips about how to do that and how to initiate change in your neighborhood, your city, etc., from the ground up. There are some tools in my community which are called the 8 Revolution. And these are free tools for people who are part of the community. So check that out. The community is free. Okay, everybody. I think that's it, Laura.
Yep, that's it for now. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, thank you. And thanks everybody for showing up and all those people who are coming each month to be part of this. Be well. Again, if you're not part of my community, sign up for it. If you don't receive my newsletters and you're not on my list, sign up for it. You'll get all kinds of information to enhance your life and for us to get through this big shift together. Thanks again, everybody. Be well. See you soon.